Well, good morning. The calendar has turned to March, the month when spring is scheduled to arrive. We'll see how that plays out. Today we're going to be talking with someone who started working in Marquette as a police officer and today is responsible for managing the operations of the entire city, which just happens to be Michigan's largest city north of Midland. It starts right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Now here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, Mike Angeli was named Marquette City Manager in October of 2015. He has a long history with the city, including serving as Chief of Police from 2008 until he took on this new assignment. He had also previously served as Acting City Manager. Mike is our guest this morning. Welcome to the Ryan Report.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you with us. Now I want to talk a little bit about you, but I think first I ought to make a point on what I said in the opening, because a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, largest city north of Midland? What about Traverse City? And just for the benefit of our audience, the city of Marquette is larger, right?
Sure, yeah, population-wise and certainly probably area-wise, it is larger than Traverse City. And as in my previous life as a police officer, our police department, for example, was always one of the largest north of Midland as well.
Sure.
Traverse City is rather concentrated. They do many things as a county as opposed to we do things as a municipality, so sometimes it seems much larger, but yeah, we're actually up there.
Yeah, on the basis of a county, they are larger, but the city of Marquette is the largest city north of Midland, Mount Pleasant, down in that
exactly.
area. First of all, let's talk about you a little bit, because I think a lot of people know you, but a lot of people don't know all about you. If I'm right, you actually grew up in Iron River, didn't you, originally?
Well, I was born in Iron River. I hesitate to say the date, but it's, seeing how I'm with you, I may be a little bit younger. 1955, and in 1959, my parents moved to Marquette to open a new supermarket, the Super Value store, which is currently on West Washington Street, where the farmers market is, the co-op, the food co-op is. Right. My parents built that building and operated a supermarket there for a number of years. I grew up in a house that was right there, kind of where the New York Deli is. Okay. I went to Sandy Knoll Elementary School. I then went to Whitman Elementary when I moved to that area. Graverette when it was a middle school, and then graduated from Marquette in 1973.
Okay, and your family, your dad's family, really had a lot of history in the supermarket business, didn't they?
Yeah, our family has been, depending how you look at it, maybe notorious for being involved in the grocery business. My father, along with his brothers and sisters, had several supermarkets throughout the Upper Peninsula. Most of that generation has passed on, and a lot of the businesses have gone in different directions, not necessarily in family ownership anymore, but yeah, that was their livelihood.
And your dad was really active in the community too. I think he served on the county board.
Yes, he was very active. I mean, one of the things that he instilled in me and my siblings is, community involvement, especially dedication to your community and love for your community and concern for your community. And he was very involved, and he was on the county board for several years, and actually had just won an election, a re-election for county board when he passed away in 1998.
Now, you actually worked for him in the grocery store for a while, but I seem to recall a story, and I don't remember exactly what it was, where maybe he wasn't that thrilled with your customer relations skills. Do you remember that at all?
I don't know. Can you give me a couple more hints?
It just seems the way you told some of the customers if they had a problem, how they might deal with them. But
well, I'm sure there were moments like that. I grew up. I mean, when my father brought us into the business, we started at the bottom. That's the way you did things back then. My brothers and I started actually in a bottle cage in the back of the old store, sorting returnable bottles, because back then you had to sort them and then return them to the proper vendors. And my father paid us $6 a week, which I had to share with my brothers. Okay. So I got $2 a week, and then we moved up into bagging and carrying out groceries and all those kind of things that you do. You learn the business from the bottom.
Sure.
Eventually to semi-management positions. My brother Ed, for example, ended up managing the store here in Marquette after I left, and not that I would have managed it if I was there, but yeah, it was. There were probably moments when, we probably didn't our customer relations as a young man, probably weren't what they're supposed to be or should have been.
So you decided at some point you'd rather be a police officer.
Yes. Yeah, I can't really tell you why. I don't really know why, but I just remember having an epiphany. I think it was while I was working a midnight shift, because we had to do that too back in the supermarket. The store was open 24 hours, and being part of the family didn't exclude us from those shifts. And I think at one moment I thought, well, maybe it might be a good idea for a career change. I happen to know a few police officers back then, and that was 1976. And then George Johnson, who was the iconic chief of police for many years here in Marquette, was a person that I was able to talk to, and luckily for me, they had a program in place that allowed someone like me to come in basically unprepared for the job, kind of through a training program, and he hired me, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah. I know you also have served as a football official.
Yes, I've been doing that for 43 years now.
Are you still doing that?
Still doing it.
Wow.
It's something that's probably going to be coming to an end here near soon. I don't know, this year I think might be my last year, but that takes younger legs too.
Okay, and I know you're also a very avid fly fisherman.
Fly fisherman. My wife and I both enjoy fly fishing, and it's really helped out in our relationship. It's something that we do together, we love together, and it's really a good time.
And besides managing the city, I know over the years you've been involved in a lot of things. The United Way is one, and the schools are an area where you've been particularly interested.
Yes, I've, excuse me, I spent some time on the school board in 2000 to 2004. I was very interested in that. And since that time, I've been involved in a lot of different subcommittees in the district, trying to help them through different challenges and different problems. And I'm proud to say I was part of the effort that recently realigned the schools in the district, kept Graverette as a vibrant part of the school district and the community, something I felt very strongly about, as well as helping pass the sinking fund millage.
Okay. So now that we know about you, we'll talk about what's going on in the city of Marquette.
Sure thing.
But we'll take a break first. Back
Okay.
with more on the Ryan Report in just 2 minutes. Our guest this morning is Mike Angeli. Mike is the city manager of Marquette. Let's talk about some of the things going on in the city. Certainly one of the big things is the construction of a new hospital, which is also going to mean some changes in getting access to that hospital. How are those projects coming?
Well, they're coming very well. It's my understanding that the hospital is probably a little ahead of schedule in construction, and I think if you drive by there, you can see the steel going up. It's a huge project, and it's something that I think the city has only begun to realize the benefit. That particular structure and that particular business being in that location, I think is going to be huge for the downtown area. Already, I'm familiar with improvements such as the construction along Washington Street. I mean, some of those new buildings that are going to be going up, some new services related to the hospital. I think the medical center is going to fare well from this relationship. And just all those businesses in the area. And as you mentioned a few minutes ago, the city is involved in a road project related to that hospital. It was very instrumental in gaining their confidence or helping them make the decision to move where they are, that we become a partner, so to speak, in improving access to the hospital. We've got some significant road projects scheduled for this summer. Probably I just signed the paperwork on some of the bidding material last week. There's one thing that they insisted on that I think is very smart on their part was they wanted access directly from the bypass.
Right.
And their idea was, and it sounds like a really good one, is that if you're coming to Marquette to go to the hospital, you should be able to find it right away without having to travel, side streets and so to speak. So part of our plan is to construct a roundabout right in front of the access point to the hospital, which is about a quarter mile west of the Grove Street intersection.
Okay.
And then as part of that, the city, we're taking advantage of improving the intersection at Grove of the bypass by putting a roundabout there. That's an area that if you've traveled through it, you know it has its difficulties. It's not really configured correctly. There's a lot of traffic. And then as part of that, if you're approaching from the north on 7th Street, you know as well that that approach is not very clear or clean and safe. So we're taking advantage and improving that approach. We're improving the side street access streets from 7th Street to the hospital. There's going to be a roundabout on Baraga, that's the third one now, right in front of the hospital. So that roundabout will gain you access to the hospital campus off of Baraga. It'll gain you access to 41 to the other roundabout that's just on 41, and then you can go, you know, left or right, depending on your direction.
And you expect to get these all done this construction season?
This construction season, and you know, I hesitate to say this because people are probably not going to be happy during the course of the summer, but we have 3 other roundabouts planned in the city as well. Lincoln and Wright, which is another kind of disappointing or tough intersection, Sugarloaf and Wright Street, and then Fair and Presque Isle. And those are associated in part with you know, trying to create a better traffic flow around University. The University is very supportive. You know, we have the truck traffic concern coming from Eagle Mine, and this will help with that process. Plus, Wright Street in itself is in poor shape. But getting back to my previous point, there's going to be a lot of choke points in the city next year for traffic, or this summer for traffic, and I'm hoping that the public can be comfortable with it and patient with it. I mean, it's all good. It's good progress. It's great for the city, and it can only improve things. But I'm anticipating, after I sat and thought about it, I'm anticipating, okay, the phone calls will probably start. So, but we'll deal with it.
Marquette's going to be Roundabout City.
Roundabout City, and I'll be Roundabout King.
Okay. We only have a minute left in this segment.
Okay.
Certainly one of the concerns people have is the old hospital, not old, but the present hospital building. Is there some progress being made on discussions there?
Not really much since the last time we may have discussed it at the commission level. I do know that Duke LifePoint is very dedicated and pointed at doing something with that building. The exact phrase that was given to me early on was that we don't want to be identified with another orphanage, so to speak. So I know they are taking steps internally to try to market it, to try to get it out there, to try to come up with a plan or idea what to do with it. I'm confident that they're going in that direction. It's just that it's such a unique facility that, you know, the choices and options are probably very few.
Yeah, okay. Got some more questions for you. We'll get to those in just a couple of minutes. Back with more on the Ryan Report after this break. Again, our guest this morning is Marquette City Manager Mike Angeli. Just quickly on the new Municipal Service Center, of course you had to close down the old one to make way for the hospital. Is that moving along well? Moving along well.
You know, it's almost complete. Our timetable is we hope to begin moving in the middle of May, be completely in the middle of June, and we have to be out of the old location, which still have some motor pool stuff going on over there. We have to be out of there by the end of June, so we should be on schedule for that.
And you made it through this winter with kind of temporary quarters?
Yeah, temporary quarters. We really lucked out in getting that facility, and you know, I have to say our staff has been exemplary in handling that situation.
One of the things the city is working on that I've seen is you're working with a firm on energy savings, and it's got to be a unique contract. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, you know, the state of Michigan recently passed a law that allows us to finance this type of thing differently. It's through a tax-exempt lease program. So in other words, we can lease our improvements. What we've done is hire Johnson Control to come in, assess all of our energy needs. You know, lighting, water use, gas use, all of that stuff, and potentially, hopefully, identify where we can save energy by making improvements, with the understanding that the money we save by saving that energy, we can then put back into paying for the improvements, and that would go to pay the lease payments for the actual improvements, if that makes sense. One of the things that's kind of significant in that program is that we have a wastewater treatment plant that produces methane. During the winter months, we use that methane to heat the plant, but the rest of the year we just have to burn it off or dispense of it. And what we're hoping to do is put in a micro, not a generator, but similar to a micro generator to use that methane to create electricity that will help us run the plant as well.
One of the issues the city is going to be faced with down the road is the closing of the Presque Isle power plant, a major contributor to the city's economic base. Is the commission looking at this issue?
Yes, we are. We hope to engage a discussion internally as to how we can set ourselves up ordinance-wise or something to that effect, so that when they do close, we have laws in place that will ensure certain results. I mean, something as simple as that you're just not going to walk away and leave it sit there. I think there are state laws that already govern that, but we want to make sure we're protected. As far as the reuse of the property, I don't know what type of future that holds. I mean, of course, we've fought for years to try to keep it going, keep it open.
Right.
But that didn't happen, so we're going to do the best we can to make sure it's closed down properly and hopefully reused.
Is the city of Marquette reaching a point where it's going to have to look pretty carefully at how it spends it? Not that it doesn't already.
Yeah.
I don't mean to imply that, but may it get more difficult as things go forward as far as finances go?
Well, yes, and that's a good question, because the city is very vibrant right now. There's a lot happening. Everything that's happening is very beneficial to the city, but what isn't happening is an improvement or a matching increases to our general fund in the city. In other words, taxes are not necessarily staying abreast of expenses. We as a city, are looking hard internally at how we can cut things. We're trying to stay away from cutting services. But on the other hand, there's enough, we're hoping to have enough improvements or construction to kind of counterbalance, for example, the loss of the WE plant, because that's 10% of our general fund as a tax base right there, and that's going to be gone in 2019 or 2020. So yeah, we do have those issues.
And I hesitate to bring it up because we have probably only about a minute left, but obviously marinas has become a very controversial issue, and you're downsizing the Presque Isle Marina. Is that the plan?
That's the plan. I mean, Presque Isle Marina has been in poor shape for many years. We've never had a plan in place to keep it maintained or to keep it solid, so it just basically is collapsing. We've taken some initial steps in the last few years by removing a pier, dredging the harbor, putting in a new boat launch. And what the instructions are from the commission is they support rebuilding the marina, but they want to do it with a budget neutral approach. In other words, not spend general fund tax dollars. Mostly because the users are so small, and the benefit of spending general tax dollars only affects so few people. And what we've done is come up with a plan for some gradual replacement, downsizing to begin with, gradual replacement of the marina facility. It's displeased some of the boaters, which I think is obvious by some of the media accounts that have been out there. And plus we're being pushed a little bit by the Waterways Commission and the DNR that funds part of this, that, to build less than need and not depend on grant funding in the future to rebuild it. Okay. So we're trying to be responsible.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Maybe
Great.
We'll get back and talk about it some more.
Sure.
Thanks very much for coming in this morning, Mike.
Thank you, I appreciate it. It's always good to see you.
I'll be back with some other thoughts for you after we take this break. We've learned to accept the fact that things that have been around for a long time eventually reach the end of their life and disappear. 8-track tapes have come and gone. Audio cassettes have pretty well left us too. And not too many of us are playing Pong anymore. Video games have gone in a whole new direction. And so today I have to pass along some sad news. When we hear about the demise of something that's been with us for many years, we're not always ready to accept its departure. And that's the way I felt when I read a story the other day. It seems that new versions of the board game Monopoly will no longer give players the option of using a tiny silver-colored thimble as their pawn on the board. That's right, after years of serving us well, the thimble is on its way out. Apparently fans voted to drop that piece that has been part of the game since its introduction in 1935. That's over 80 years ago. One interesting aspect of the story was the fact the writer had to take time to explain what a thimble actually is. The story described it as a tool used in sewing to avoid being picked by a needle. Apparently they decided that many young people didn't really have a clue about what you do with a thimble. Like a lot of other things, the art of sewing has also gone by the wayside. But back to Monopoly. The thimble was the second of the game's original pieces to be dropped. Back in 2013, players voted to cast aside the iron game piece and replace it with a cat. The move was met with mixed reactions. I don't think they had to explain what purpose an iron serves. The surviving pieces that trace their roots back to the Great Depression include a battleship, a boot, and a Scotty dog. Players also had the option to vote online on a new pawn to replace the thimble, with choices including monster trucks, flip-flops, emojis, a cell phone, and more. Hasbro will reveal their new choice soon. In any case, it's farewell to the thimble. It will no longer pass go and collect $200. It will no longer be riding on the B&O Railroad, cashing in at the waterworks, or staying at a posh house on Park Place. But I'm sure some of you will not forget the thimble and the riches it brought you in a game called Monopoly, while others will still remember it as the device that kept their fingers safe from sewing needles. They can take away the thimble, but not the memories. I'll be back in a minute. Well, before we say goodbye, I want to remind you that if you miss our show, it's available each week on the internet at uppermichigansource.com. The most recent edition is usually available starting at about noon on Monday. You can also find the latest news anytime at that same address. I appreciate Mike Angeli joining us this morning to provide some updates on developments in the city of Marquette. Today's show is coming up next. Thank you for making us part of your morning, and I hope we can look forward to seeing you again next Sunday.